click, clack, clang, click, clack, click, clack, clang, click, clack, click, clack.
My book, I made a comment that said, if you were to have written a book, it would have been titled "I Married a Monster." Would that be a fair? Would that be a worthy title?
Yes, that would have been so true and well said.
What would you call a guy who just couldn't get it? I mean a guy who spent 25 plus years going in and out of prison. Would you say that that guy was a repeat offender? How about incorrigible? Insane? Or just a fool? No, I call that person me, Ronald Lloyd James, the one who missed an opportunity in life, who made bad choices, and it all started right here. 35 Erie Street, Norristown, Pennsylvania.
We grew up in West Philadelphia, and I'm 5 years older than him, so I guess he was about 7 or 8 when we moved to Lansdale, and we had a very good childhood growing up. We were exposed to a lot of good things because my dad was a very good earner and provider, and we had a life as though it was like the Brady Bunch, if you could relate to that type of atmosphere. Very good home life.
I knew Ron when he came to Montgomery Elementary School. As a student, I believe he came in second grade, when I was in second grade. My father was the principal of the elementary school, and I remember my father telling me that we had a new family from Philadelphia moving in, and that's when I first met Ron.
We went to Montgomery Elementary School in the suburbs, and one time coming out of school, I don't know how, I missed the school bus. We were young, you know, and so my dad had to come and pick me up. My mom didn't drive, and you know, there's 5 of us, and she took care of home and everything. But so when I got home from school, later on that evening, my dad had a talk with my brother, and he said, "You are the older sibling, you know, make sure that she gets on that school bus every day." So, you know, from then on, he was my, you know, protector.
I mean, Ron and his family were the first black family in our elementary school. So it was something different for us, but it was just, it was no big deal. We were just, it was different, and it was, you know, we just loved Ron.
Even as a little girl, actually from the day of birth, I was Ron's present. I was always told, whether it was from him or my mother, I could always hear that growing up, that I, in fact, was his birthday present. We share birthdays in the month of June, and it's always been special.
What I had hoped as a child is that I would marry someone one day that was going to be like my brother Ron. I wanted him handsome, and I wanted him smelling good and dressing nice and wanting to take care, because he was very thoughtful, as I said to all the family and to everybody. I wanted a thoughtful man like that in my life. I wanted somebody that was like my brother Ron.
Well, there's a lot on the dark side. My brother attended college at Millersville, and when he left college, I guess he got exposed to the worldly things of life, the street. I think his curiosity led him, you know, like a curious George, through influences of family and friends. He wanted to step away from the suburbia of life and experience what was going on in the street, in the hustle.
I got involved in testing out different drugs, from Quaaludes to smoking weed, drinking all sorts of grain alcohols and punches.
Started off, from what I understand, he was selling cocaine, and he just started indulging in the product instead of selling the product.
I found myself so down that there was times that I was getting high, smoking crack cocaine, that I wouldn't even wash my body for 4 or 5 days. I wouldn't even eat. All I was concerned about, or all I was consumed with, was self and pleasing myself and giving myself another high.
Through the streets, he met a woman. Her name was Shirley Diggs. And she introduced him to not only the drug culture, but also she introduced him to what we call paper hanging, credit cards, scams, and checks.
Always seems like he was running from something or running to something. And I know it was a constant battle for him.
And then they became what you would call a Bonnie and Clyde team. They traveled up and down the roads from the Midwest, where Kansas is, all the way to Virginia, all the way up into, I guess you would say, New York.
Well, that lifestyle soon burned out because I found myself going in and out of prison numerous times. I mean, to the extent of being incarcerated at CFCF, Montgomery County Prison, Bucks County Prison, Delaware County Prison, 3 different jails in Kansas, Reno County, Kansas, Sedgwick County, Kansas, Harvey County, Kansas, and then graduating to going upstate.
I always told my mother-in-law, who we affectionately called Mimi, that she was right there as close as you could possibly be as a mother, as a friend, as an advisor, as a counselor. One of the greatest stories is her moving into this 1353 East Vernon Road that you see behind us. We went around together, her and I, and we looked at 3 or 4 different places in like bad areas, and you know, we came here. This was the last place we went in. It was a bright sunny day like this. We went in to this house. I looked across the street at this church. I'm like, wow.
My mother protected him because she didn't want him running in and out of the house. So I'd come over there and there'd be candles and paraphernalia, test tubes and coke residue and all kind of things, because she loved him that much that she didn't want him running in and out, so she allowed him to stay home so he wouldn't be in the crack houses.
She loved Ron, like, to a fault. I'd be like, Mimi, come on. You know, they just never gave up, always calling, making calls, never gave up.
Well, I guess his dark side as far as during the time of incarceration. But as far as the dark side, I don't relate to no dark side, really, man. Just things happen.
At that time, I thought that a very good person, a very good friend, a very good father figure at that time was turned into a monster.
How I met Ron was we actually met through an online dating service called Christian Mingle. It was truly amazing from the very, very beginning. We started communicating via email through the site itself. And once we started talking on the phone, there was an instant connection that we had. And I knew from the very beginning that this was someone really, really special that God has sent to me. I believe in my heart that God was saving him for me, saving me for him, for this moment to happen for us to meet. And ever since the very beginning, he has been open and honest with me about his past. And that's what makes our relationship so special, is that I know the person that he is today. And it's hard for me at times when I think about or I hear stories of what happened and what he's done in the past, because it's so hard for me to believe, because that's not the Ron that he is today.
How I met Ron James, we have a mutual friend by the name of Keith Stutzball who had been visiting Ron in prison, Dauphin County Prison, Camp Hill Prison, and he mentioned about the need as he was preparing to be released for employment. Keith had mentioned about this gentleman that he knew, Don Shin, who's the master franchise owner, and Ron said, Don Shin, I used to work for that band 7-8 years ago. And so in the interviewing process, in terms of coming to Action Coach to interview, Don asked me my opinion in terms of the possibility of hiring Ron James. And so it was a very interesting relationship from the get-go. We had talked about being in prison and people and different situations for probably an hour. And just life. We talked about life. We talked about our love of Jesus Christ, wanting to help people, and the whole thing. One of the most profound things was at the end, Ron asked if he could pray for me. And I just thought that was so humbling to me. So we prayed, and so Don and I had that conversation, and he said I was a major factor in terms of that decision from his perspective of the business in which to bring Ron on board.
I think that he's lucky the choices didn't ruin the way he looks and his physical health. Obviously it affected his mental health, but I think writing this book, talking about his experiences and hopefully sharing it with everybody else is going to be therapeutic for him. The choices, I think the more he talks about them and takes ownership of them, the more that he will be able to help other people, but mostly help himself to continue to make better choices through the rest of his life.
Well, it's too early to say. However, he seems to have a game plan in motion. He seems like he wants to start his own business. He described that he wants to start his telemarketing business, which I'm really encouraged by that. And just reach out and go for his endeavors in life.
My hope for him was, boy, I just hope he has a child. I hope he can be a father and share that love with someone. But I would say now, my hope for him is that he continues on the path that he is, sharing his story with others, being able to give back, showing that it's not about self, it's not about you. It's so much bigger than him. And that he can stay in that direction, wanting to help others, and always remembering, again, that it's not about you. It's bigger than that.
I'm surprised I'm not crying, but I've had all the tears, I believe, of joy and sadness, and joy and sadness. But to see him continue in Christ, I've already seen great strides in him.
And I believe in him 100%. And I thank God for that. I love you, Ron.
He's a great example for a lot of people out there who are going through any kind of challenging time, that just sitting back and making the right choice can really make a big difference in your life. So my hope is that we continue spreading the word and sharing with other people the message of choices.
Having his family one day, doing what he's about.
Is there anything specifically that you would want to share, or you would want to share with the world about your son?
I say he's great.
And in your mind, what makes Ron great?
He's about having his own way. Sometimes a little too much.
The choices that you make to get in prison are phenomenal and can be very simple, and your life can change just like that.
I would describe Ron as a very intelligent person. That took a bad turn as far as his drug addiction go. But other than that, he's been a very resilient guy as far as bouncing back from making various mistakes and trying to get back on track. And you know, so a lot of times that we have a tendency to judge people on how, you know, they might fall, but we don't realize to judge the people on how they also been able to come back.